Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 88. Without any delay, start explanation. Tang Wulin already had a sneak peek at the benefits of being a high-ranked blacksmith. He knew that, once he firmly established himself in the 5th rank, he would have no problems obtaining anything he needed in exchange for his work. His current plan was to reach rank 30 and perfect his spirit-refining skills, all while studying mechas and battle armor. He could push combat practice and other things back until later. Gold Light was a 1000-year spirit soul, so he didn't have to worry about obtaining one for his 3rd soul ring either. Once Tang Wulin arrived at the teacher's office with Guu, Xinyi accepted the papers from him. She quickly flipped through them before giving him a nod of approval. Excellent. All of you have worked hard. Tang Wulin. As class president, you will be burdened with many responsibilities in the future. Prepare yourself. Understood. Tang Wulin knew that, as his responsibilities grew, he would learn even more. Shrek Academy has always focused on nurturing well-rounded geniuses, but we also raise specialized geniuses. As a blacksmith, you are blessed by the heavens, but that doesn't mean you can relax just yet. Xinyi watched him carefully. I heard you were abducted by Elder Feng the other day. Tang Wulin forced out a bitter smile and nodded. You don't have to worry. I'm a member of Shrek's Blacksmiths Association now. When it came for Feng Wuyu, Tang Wulin was at a loss. The man was a true eccentric, but fortunately for Tang Wulin, his teacher would arrive soon. At the very least, he was confident in his teacher when it came to blacksmithing skill. Who said my name? At that moment, the blazing-haired Feng Wuyu walked in. Upon seeing Tang Wulin, his eyes lit up and he roared with laughter. I was just looking for you. I sure am lucky to find you so soon. Wait to the side for a bit, kid. I have to talk to that girl Xinyi about something. Hello, Elder Feng. Xinyi had long since stood up and given Feng Wuyu a respectful salute. Feng Wuyu waved his hand dismissively. It's fine, it's fine. I just have a small matter to talk with you about. It's about this kid actually. He's a blacksmithing genius blessed by the heavens, and I want to carefully nurture him, but he won't accept me as his teacher. What do you think should be done here? Xinyi stared at him, dumbstruck. How am I supposed to know what you should do? Am I a blacksmith? No. I can't force him either. She sent a pleading look over to Wu Zhongkong, who stood nearby. Hello, Elder Feng, Wu Zhongkong spoke up as he walked over. As I'm sure you know, we only have the authority to make suggestions regarding our students' professions. We can't force anything upon them, and it's up to them to decide. Could it be that you haven't been able to persuade him? Wu Zhongkong's expression was as icy as usual, but his words were sharper than ever. He passed the ball right back into Feng Wuyu's court. Feng Wuyu snorted. You brat. Don't think I've forgotten how many years you've been away without so much as a peep. You want to talk back to me? Fine. I won't bother with you two anymore. Anyway, I'm just here to tell you not to give him too many responsibilities in the future. He needs as much time as he can get to learn from me. Well, I'm off then. Kid, come with me. Since you're a student here at Shrek, you should treat me as a teacher. I don't care if you agree or not. I'm your teacher now. He grabbed Tang Wulin and threw him over his shoulder as he walked out. Tang Wulin was helpless against Feng Wuyu. Elder Feng, can you put me down? I'll walk with you. Feng Wuyu revealed a sly smirk as he acceded. So you've finally accepted me as your teacher? What you said is right. Here on campus, I'm already one of your students. Tang Wulin forced his stare upon Feng Wuyu as if daring him to look away. Feng Wuyu exhaled forcefully, underscoring his contempt, before continuing, It's taken you so long to finally understand this simple fact. Follow me and you'll have a future much brighter than with that brat from that whatever Blacksmiths Association. The moment they stepped foot outside the teacher's office, Feng Wuyu grabbed Tang Wulin once more and dashed off, arriving at his workshop a few seconds later. Back in the office, Xinyi and Wu Zhongkong exchanged looks of dismay. Elder Feng acts so quickly. Shen Yi muttered. Do we need to tell teacher about this? Wu Zhongkong nodded. We definitely need to inform teacher. Elder Feng has an eccentric personality, and though Wu Lin is clever and knows how to behave himself, he's still stubborn at heart. It'd be good to have teacher around as insurance in case those two get into an argument. A hint of worry flashed through Ji Yu's eyes. Teacher Wu Lin's not in danger, right? He shook his head. Most likely not. Elder Feng is one of the most powerful people on campus. He might be strange, but he is very devoted to blacksmithing. To be fair, he isn't suited for blacksmithing in the traditional sense. Elder Feng got to where he is now through sheer perseverance alone. He started blacksmithing when he was 28 years old, and after pouring blood and sweat into his work, he's now an 8th-rank saint blacksmith. For that reason, Elder Feng has his own unique perspective on blacksmithing. Wu Lin could potentially learn a lot from him. That's good then. Teacher Wu, Teacher Shen, I'll be taking my leave. Ji Yu didn't immediately set forth for the dormitory. Instead, she headed off campus after a moment of thought. Sun with rays. Cornered in Feng Wuyu's workshop, Tang Wulin stared helplessly at the eccentric man. Elder Feng, I can't forge right now. Feng Wuyu's glare could scorch. Why not? Are you getting arrogant now that you have some achievements under your belt? Let me tell you, perseverance is the key to success. Perseverance is victory. Haven't you ever heard that saying before? Don't get complacent just because you have some talent. No matter the profession, you will have to devote blood and sweat to reach the peak. This prompted Tang Wulin to throw up his hands. I understand everything you've just said, and I'm not just being lazy. But I have to deal with more important matters first. Like cultivating. I'm sure you can sense I haven't yet reached rank 30. In fact, I'm only at rank 28 at the moment. My soul power is holding me back as a blacksmith. We both know I could spirit refine right now if not for my soul power. Although my body is far stronger than my peers, if I want to spirit refine safely, my soul power needs to be at least rank 30. I would love to study spirit refining under you, but my soul power is too lacking right now. There's nothing that can be done about it. Taken by surprise, Feng Wuyu's blazing confidence dimmed, his eyes glossing over as he digged through his thoughts. He scratched his head. That makes some sense. Oh right. You're already at the peak of the 4th rank at your age, so you can try to spirit refine now. You said you'll try it once you hit rank 30. When Feng Wuyu had started blacksmithing, his cultivation base was firmly laid out. As such, he didn't have to consider soul power restrictions. Only after this exchange with Tang Wulin did he realize this was a legitimate issue. My innate strength is adequate and my body is sturdy, which makes up for some of my lacking soul power. But even so, I need to at least be rank 30 to spirit refine without risk. There was a qualitative leap between 2 and 3 rings, and the boost in power would be more than enough to ensure his safety when spirit refining. Feng Wuyu knitted his brows then nodded. All right. That's reasonable. But kid, don't think this is enough to stop me from teaching you how to forge. Isn't it just rank 30? I know some methods to get you there. But it'll cost you. There are ways. Tang Wulin was taken by surprise. There are shortcuts to soul power cultivation? Feng Wuyu threw his head back and laughed, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Of course there are. I can help boost your soul power to rank 30 and help you break through, but the price? It's a bit high. It will cost you 10 spirit refined metals once you've become a 5th rank blacksmith. How about it? No thanks, Tang Wulin declined straight away. Feng Wuyu's face froze. Kid, what are you saying? As a soul master, you should be jumping on this chance to increase your soul power. I can even guarantee there will be no side effects. Don't you know a soul master's age and rank have a huge influence over their future? Your current level isn't anything remarkable, so if you don't put in the time now and grab any opportunity that comes by, the gap between you and your peers will continue to widen. Tang Wulin turned a deaf ear to Feng Wuyu's advice. I'm fine, Elder Phone. I think it's best if I take cultivation one step at a time. I'm certain I'll reach rank 30 in 2 months at the latest. After breaking the second seal, his blood essence had grown more vigorous and his soul power climbed to rank 28. His cultivation speed had increased thanks to the seal breaking, and he was confident in his estimate of 2 months. Although he lagged behind his teammates at the moment, he would surely overtake them one day as long as he continued breaking the Golden Dragon King seals. It was obvious Feng Wuyu didn't understand Tang Wulin's character. 10 spirit refined products was worth an enormous sum of money, with a conservative estimate of at least 50,000 contribution points. That would be enough to feed Tang Wulin for several months. His ravenous appetite didn't allow him to ignore such a large sum. Tang Wulin would rather have taken his cultivation step by step and not lose himself of a fortune for a shortcut. So, it wasn't that he didn't feel anxious to reach rank 30, but that he absolutely couldn't bear to give up 10 spirit refined products. Kid, is your brain rotting? Tell you what, I'll even provide you with the metal to spirit refine. And don't forget, you'll benefit a lot from this too. With 10 spirit refinings to your name, you'll be famous in the outer court. I appreciate the offer, but no thanks. Tang Wulin continued to shake head as if that was all he knew how to do. Kid, you really know how to anger me. Feng Wuyu fumed, but there wasn't much he could do in the face of Tang Wulin's stubborn refusals. Elder Feng, you don't have to be so hurried. I'll steadily cultivate, and once I reach rank 30, I'll definitely come learn from you. I'll take my leave now then. Tang Wulin made to leave swift as a breeze, his back burning from Feng Wuyu's heated glower. Feng Wuyu didn't stop him from leaving. Everything Tang Wulin had said rang true as a bell. Namely, that he couldn't practice spirit refining until he hit rank 30. Not only that, when Tang Wulin forged the meteoric iron, Feng Wuyu had seen for himself where Tang Wulin had stood in the realm of blacksmithing. He was a prodigy at the peak of the 4th rank. More practice wouldn't help him grow at the moment. But that kid won't accept my good intentions. Isn't it a great deal to get my help in boosting him to rank 30? 10 spirit refinings is a cheap price for what he'd get. I'd have to put aside my pride just to acquire some of the items needed for the procedure, yet he actually refused. With Feng Wuyu's workshop behind him, Tang Wulin felt his whole body relax, limbs no longer held tightly together by ropes of tension. Just thinking about how an unreasonable madman like Feng Wuyu would respond to rejection sent shivers down his spine. Fortunately, Feng Wuyu showed a modicum of rationality today and let him off the hook. That wasn't to say Tang Wulin didn't understand the importance of blacksmithing, but it was not his #1 priority right now. However, Tang Wulin would be lying to say he wasn't at least curious about Feng Wuyu's special method. Especially if it could boost his soul power without any side effects. It likely required the consumption of heavenly spirit items. Even so, 10 spirit refined products was too large of a price for Tang Wulin to hand over. He had no choice but to be stingy. In order to refine his blood essence, he had to shell out the money for the spirit items necessary to break his seals. This was impossible to accomplish unless he saved every penny. Once 16, he would have to break 1 seal a year, and judging from the items required to shatter the 3rd seal, he could only imagine the outrageous treasures needed for the later ones. There was no way he had enough cash stashed right now. Sun with rays. Night creeped along, each working student nestled within their dorms not letting out a peep. Flitting his eyes open, Xie spared a glance at Tang Wulin. He was currently cultivating in his bed, a thick aura of blood essence lingering around him. His body burst with vitality. Whenever he cultivated with Tang Wulin, Xie felt more motivated. And while his soul power rank may be higher than Tang Wulin's, he had never felt superior to him. Climbing off his bed with the full grace of a cat, a slight tap from his feet touching the ground and nothing more, Xie crept past Tang Wulin's bed. Careful to not alarm the 2 girls, who slept on the other side of the curtain splitting their room in half, he kept this act and snuck out the door. Xie basked in the refreshing night breeze once outside. He looked to the sky, eyes trembling with 1 part frustration and 2 parts resolve. For the past few days, he had been working hard reshaping and improving himself. His understanding of himself grew twofold after the competition for presidency. Stepping foot into Shrek Academy had forced Xie to re-evaluate his strength relative to his peers. It was a hard thing to swallow. Back in East Sea City, he had been among the cream of the crop, but now, he was barely above average. He had understood Tang Wulin was strong back then, but he had thought he could still compete with his speed. However, Tang Wulin's improvement rate went beyond his imagination. He didn't believe it at first. Tang Wulin's advancement did not slip one bit. The combination of his destructive Golden Dragon Claw and Tang Sect secret arts placed him higher than Xie now. But perhaps most important was their difference in combat ability. Xie had never been his match in this regard. Elder CAI's criticism had served as a wake-up call for him. Since then, he redoubled his efforts into mastering the mysterious Ghost Shadow Perplexing track. He could produce clones with both his martial souls, not to mention invisible ones using his Shadow Dragon Dagger. Heeding Elder CAI's advice, he worked on polishing his advantages and minimizing his weaknesses. He realized he lacked control, since he had never invested much effort to improve it. This realization spurred Xie to practice Ghost Shadow Perplexing track with one clone. Because of this, he managed to achieve favorable results in the class competition. He had accomplished the amazing feat of winning a 1-against-2 match at Shrek Academy, not to mention that his opponents were both control types. But after the class competition, Shen Yi had asked him and Xu Xiaoyan if they wanted to throw their hats into the ring for the vice president positions. Although he had given up in the end, he wasn't completely convinced. Despite that, he understood why Shen Yi posed the question to him. He wasn't strong enough. Not even he could deny this fact. Furthermore, he lacked the confidence to fill a vice president's shoes. As Xie recalled that scene, he couldn't help but clench his fist. Aside from that, one other thing left a deep impression on him: Wu Xidu's self-soul fusion skill. Just like her, he had twin martial souls, though they weren't considered true ones since he had to get each of them soul rings at the same time. However, because Light Dragon Dagger and Shadow Dragon Dagger were extremely similar, there was a possibility he could pull off a self-soul fusion skill as well. This idea had been gnawing at Xie lately. With his current cultivation and the characteristics of his twin martial souls, Xie was confident he could ascend to the Genius Youths ranking with a self-soul fusion skill under his belt. As such, he had been racking his brain on how to do this. Unfortunately, he found little success. Unable to focus on meditation tonight, Xie sought fresh air. The cool night breeze cleared his mind of clutter. If I can't do it by myself, then I'll just have to ask Teacher Wu for help. Maybe he'll have an idea on how to get me a self-soul fusion skill. As he mulled things over, Xie strolled around the dormitory. The walk helped ease his mind. A few minutes later, he saw a bright glow spreading from one of the rooms. Huh? Isn't there supposed to be no one living there? Why's the light on? Xie's gaze sharpened. Gently pushing off the ground, he skulked over to the room's window. He took a peek. Although the lights were on inside the room, the curtains were pulled close and obstructed his view. That said, he could hear the faint slosh of running water. He summoned his Shadow Dragon Dagger. In addition to making himself invisible, it could also hide his presence and silence his actions. He stabbed the dagger into the windowsill, making sure not to let out any noise, pried it open, and pushed the curtain out the way. Then his eyes went wide and his jaw dropped. Inside the room was a fair-skinned girl wiping herself with a wet towel, long red hair draping over her back and curling slightly from the moisture. And she was completely naked. Xie could only see her profile from his position, but the curves of her body were unmistakable. Isn't this her? Even with just the side of her face in view, he instantly recognized her immediately. This girl was the red-haired waitress he and his friends had ran into on their first day at Shrek Academy. The fallen angel girl who had fought with Yu Zhengyu. Why is she here now? Why did she only appear now if she had been a working student? As a 13-year-old, Xie had just been exposed to the charms of the opposite sex for the first time. His face grew warm, a flush spreading across his cheeks and down the sides of his neck. He gulped. Who's there? As soon as the shout broke through, A thick black fog swallowed up the room. Not good. Adrenaline coursed through Xie's veins as he shot backward, retreating into the shadows. But it was too late. Soon enough, he found himself in a pitch-black world, the darkness surrounding him whole. He felt a wave of fury and madness propagate through the air toward him, nearly tangible in its intensity. In the blink of an eye, the window was smashed to smithereens. The girl leaped out of the gaping hole and chased after him with the full force of a lion. Trapped in darkness, Xie could hardly move at full speed. It felt as if he were trudging through a quagmire, feet sloshing along heavy mud. He was practically a sitting duck. Armed with no other choice, he flipped around and readied his light dragon dagger. But an explosion sent Xie flying backward through the air. The red-haired girl landed on the ground with her face flushed and her charming eyes blazing with fury. On her was the Shrek Academy uniform. Her anger crescendoed when she saw that the peeper was male. "You bastard!" Her second soul ring lit up and a violet-black sword materialized in front of her. Once the sword's handle met her hand, her imposing aura seemed to rise a level. Again, an intense darkness seeped out of her, curling around her form and darting at Xie's direction. He had to remember to close his mouth. Even with 2 soul rings, he could sense that her cultivation base was far superior to his. Drowning in the muddy darkness, Xie could do nothing to resist. Not only that, he was undoubtedly in the wrong for peeping on her. No matter which way it was put, he was at a loss. Since the girl couldn't read his mind, there was no way she had an inkling of his mental conflict. She appeared before him in a flash and slashed down with her sword. 3-meter-long blades of light left the tip of her sword. Ghostly wails accompanied the strike, and the instant the lights were dispatched, the darkness around him seemed to thicken, slowing his movement, increasing his fear. "She's trying to kill me." Xie could feel her terrifying killing intent wrapping around his limbs like chains, his neck in a noose. Startled, he summoned his shadow dragon dagger as well and spun with his daggers extended. He used Twin Dragon Storm. He spun like a top as his 2 daggers guzzled down his soul power. While he may not have true twin martial souls, having 2 martial souls still granted him an edge in the soul power department compared to normal soul masters. Unfortunately, Xie's soul power advantage was useless here. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.